Welcome to Networks Professionals.
Let's forget all the crazy acronyms and the super technical jargon for a minute. If you really want to get a handle on network security, you need to start thinking like an architect. You're not just ticking off boxes on a checklist, you are literally designing a fortress. And today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to build one, right from the ground up.
So, what's the connection? I mean, it's a great question, right? At first glance, you've got two totally different worlds. One is all about bits and bytes, the other is stone and steel. But, and this is the key, the actual principles of how you defend them, they're almost identical. And the answer really gets to the heart of all modern security.
Think about it. A castle isn't just one big, thick wall. No way! It's got a moat, a drawbridge, these high watchtowers, and guards at every single door. A truly secure network is built the exact same way. It's all about having multiple, overlapping layers of defense. This is the whole idea of a digital fortress, and it's what we're going to be diving into.
All right, so let's start where any good fortress designer would, right at the edge, at the perimeter. These are the defenses that are facing the wild, untrusted world of the internet.
So in our fortress, the DMZ is basically the outer courtyard. You need to let merchants and visitors come in, but you absolutely do not want them wandering around the royal chambers. So this is where you put your public-facing stuff, like your website server. You isolate it from your really critical internal network. That way, if that courtyard gets breached, the main castle is still safe.
Okay, so who gets to decide which merchants are even allowed into that courtyard? Well, that's the job of the Access Control List, or ACL. Just think of it like the official rule book for the guards standing at the main gate. It has super specific instructions like, okay, allow traffic from this known ally, or absolutely deny anyone trying to use this secret forbidden passageway, which in our world is just a specific network port.
Of course, the bad guys have their own playbook. A DDoS attack, for instance, isn't really about sneaking in. It's about creating total chaos right at the front door. They send this massive flood of junk traffic that completely blocks the gate, which means your legitimate visitors, your actual customers, can't get through at all.
But what about your own trusted knights who are out in the field? How do they get back inside the castle safely? Well, that's exactly what a VPN is for. It creates a totally private, encrypted tunnel that cuts right through the dangerous open internet. It's like a secret passage that only your trusted allies know about, letting them bypass the main gate and get inside securely.
Okay, so our perimeter is feeling pretty solid, but we're not done, not even close. Just because someone made it inside the castle walls doesn't mean they should get a key to every room. Now we've got to guard the interior.
For this, we've got a couple of key tools. Port security is kind of like having a unique physical key for one specific room. Only a pre-approved device can actually plug in. Then there's MAC filtering, which is a bit broader. It's like the castle's official census. It checks a device's unique hardware address and basically asks, hey, are you on the approved list of citizens? If you're not on the list, you get no access. Simple as that.
Now, trying to manage all those keys and census lists by hand, that would be a complete nightmare. And that's where something like Radius or TACAX Plus comes into play. You can think of it as the castle's central administration office. It handles the AAA, authentication, which is are you who you claim to be, authorization, what are you allowed to do, and accounting, what did you actually do.
And hey, security isn't just about the network hardware itself. What about the people actually inside the walls? Endpoint security is the modern equivalent of making sure every single person inside that fortress, every citizen, every guard, has their own personal shield and armor. It's all about protecting their individual devices, their laptops and phones, from any threats.
So, our walls are strong, and our internal controls are all set. But what happens if a really clever spy manages to sneak past all of that? Now we need to shift our thinking from just prevention to detection. It's time to set up our alarms, traps, and watchtowers.
Here we have two systems that sound similar but are very different. An IDS, an intrusion detection system, is like a silent tripwire. It just watches the traffic go by, and if it spots something fishy, it sends an alert to the guards. But an IPS, an intrusion prevention system, is way more direct. It's like a hidden trapdoor. It sits right in the path of the traffic, and if it sees a threat, it doesn't just send an alert, it actively slams the door shut and blocks it right there.
And you have to remember, the threats themselves are getting smarter all the time. Phishing is really a social attack. It's that spy with a silver tongue who convinces one of your own guards to just hand over the keys. Spoofing, on the other hand, is all about digital deception. That's the spy wearing a flawless disguise of a trusted general, tricking the guard into opening the gate without a second thought.
With all these different threats coming from every possible angle, how in the world do you see the big picture? Well, that's the job of a SIM. The SIM is our central watchtower. It's the intelligence hub for the entire fortress. It pulls in log data from everywhere to spot patterns that a single guard on the wall would totally miss.
And when I say everywhere, I really mean it. A SIM is pulling in logs from the firewalls. Those are our gates, from the servers inside our keeps, from the endpoints our citizens are using, and even from the routers that act as the roads. By putting all that information together, it can piece together the clues to spot a sophisticated attack as it's happening.
So far, we've talked a whole lot about different tools and technologies. But modern security is so much more than that. It's also about a fundamental shift in philosophy. It's about being proactive, not just waiting around to be reactive. A really crucial part of this is something called hardening. Honestly, this is just good fortress maintenance. Before an attack even begins, you're going around reinforcing the walls, patching up any cracks, and boarding up old, forgotten windows. In the network world, that means closing unused ports, getting rid of software you don't need, and applying security patches. You're just reducing the number of ways an attacker could even try to get in.
So how do you find those hidden weak spots in the first place? You do a vulnerability assessment. It's just like the royal engineer doing a systematic inspection of the castle. First, they identify any potential weaknesses. Next, they quantify the risk. Are we talking about a tiny crack or a giant gaping hole in the wall? And finally, and this is the most important part, they prioritize. They tell the leadership which holes absolutely have to be fixed before the next siege begins.
This quote, right here, gets to the absolute heart of maybe the most important shift in modern security philosophy. It's a simple phrase, but it stands for a complete revolution in how we think about trust inside our networks.
This whole philosophy is called zero trust. See, the old model was basically trust but verify. You had a strong perimeter, but once someone was inside, you generally trusted them. Zero trust completely throws that idea out the window. It assumes attackers are already inside the walls. Because of that, it trusts no one by default. Every single time a user or a device tries to access anything, its identity has to be strictly verified, period. It doesn't matter where it is.
So, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Building a digital fortress is not about finding one single magical tool that solves everything. There's no such thing as one impenetrable wall. Real strength, lasting strength, comes from defense and depth, these smart overlapping layers that all work together to protect what's most valuable.
And that really brings us to our final thought. The attackers out there are always developing new siege weapons, constantly finding new ways to get in. In response, we, the defenders, have to constantly adapt, rebuild, and rethink our own strategies. It's this perpetual arms race, which leaves us with one critical question to ponder.
Thanks for watching.